Hi guys, I'm Nick Bester and I am still a 2:19 marathoner. I was hoping I could introduce myself as a 2:18 marathoner, but London Marathon had other ideas, unfortunately. But my love for this race doesn't change. I love London more than anything, and it's almost like that person you love so much but just won't cooperate with you all the time. It was just naughty, and we'll keep going back until I walk away from that race fully satisfied. But yeah, at the time of recording this video, it's been 5 days since the race. Emotions are still very, very raw. In a way, it feels like I'm almost stuck in that last 10 Ks of the marathon. Oh, what a scary place. I don't want to go back there, but you know what? Today I'm going to talk through it all. I'm going to speak through exactly what I felt went wrong in the race. I'm going to speak through my mindset throughout the race, a little bit of on the training block. And then finally, we're going to build a bridge and we're going to forget about it. We're going to take our learnings going forward, leave all the negative stuff behind, and focus on what lies ahead. And I'll speak through sort of what my plans are going forward. But yeah, just to recap, so sort of London Marathon this year, I ran it in 2:27:33, and my previous 6 attempts all ranged from 2:19 to 2:22. So I thought, having built better marathon fitness than ever before, I thought on a really, really good day, I could go 2:18, and on a really not so good day, I could go 2:22. But I thought going into this race, that was my range. But the marathon is just a humbler. It humbles you like mad. Yeah, there's no hiding, that's for sure. So it was my slowest in my last 7 marathons by 5 minutes. And to put things into perspective, the 7 marathons, that's 295 kilometers of racing. And I've never hit a wall to that degree or gone through that much pain in the last 20 Ks of this year's London Marathon. And yeah, I put on my Strava asking if there's anything people want me to cover off from my post-race analysis. And there's a lot of questions on there. And I'm going to cover a lot in this video, but I think it's so important that we don't overanalyze these things. I sort of, I know what's gone wrong, which I'll touch base on shortly, but it's so easy when results don't go in your favor to nitpick things, overthink things. And that's exactly what I don't want to do and we shouldn't do. Okay, so yeah, firstly, let's talk about, what didn't go right in this race. And already in the build up to it, I got flu maybe about 10 days before, and about a week before I was really, really not in a good place. So much so that if the marathon was a week earlier, I wouldn't have raced it. So from that point, I significantly improved, but I was trying to convince myself I was okay. Metrics were looking a whole lot better, and I was okay to race the race. But unless you physically 100% on top of your game, then the marathon sort of like unpacks and exposes you, especially towards the end of it. And heading towards the start line, I was blowing my nose like crazy. I was coughing up phlegm, and that's sort of like warning signs. And I think probably with about 5 days to go, even when I was feeling really awful, I knew that there's a chance that I can significantly improve, and I did, thank goodness. But sort of deep down inside, I knew that I'm not just going to be at 100% in such a short space of time. And you sort of need a little bit of luck in these training blocks as well. I've had a lot of luck in my previous training blocks where I've gone into the races in full health, and I've been healthy throughout the sort of training blocks. But sometimes you can't control these things, and yeah, it is what it is. So I felt good enough to race, but clearly, I wasn't fully on top of my game. Then apart from that, and I've made this very clear in the past as well, is that I don't race really well in warmer conditions at all. So race conditions on the day was about 16 to sort of 21 degrees or so. It got a little bit hotter, I think, for people that were out there for a longer period of time. So sending you love and strength if you were one of them and watching this video. But yeah, I think, in my case, if it's over 15 degrees, I don't perform well. I've done enough races to know that. If it's sort of between 10 to 15 degrees, I perform like okay. If it's under 10 degrees and even more so under 5 degrees, then I absolutely fly. Like that's like my prime racing conditions. And I've also noticed like sort of a correlation between like I'm a bigger boy compared to those I compete against, and people that are like naturally super lean and stick skinny, like heat affects everyone, of course, but it seems to affect the lighter, leaner people a little bit less than the bigger tanks like myself. Maybe you've just got more meat to cook, but there definitely seems to be a correlation between bigger runners versus heat affecting you a little bit more adversely. So yeah, I think with those factors to bear in mind, going in not in full health and it being slightly warmer, the conditions, it just meant that my heart rate was probably about 3 to 4 beats higher. If I look back at the footage at Tower Bridge, which is 20 k's into the race, you're not even at halfway. My heart rate was around 175, and if I look at my previous full send marathons, my heart rate averages between 168 to 170. So that's a good 5 to 7 beats higher than the average, and we're not even at halfway. So, it's inevitable with a heart rate that high so early on, I was going to hit the wall, and that unfortunately came. But the problem with that is that you're so psyched up for that day, you've got so much adrenaline as well that you don't actually, it feels super comfortable, and I don't tend to look at my heart rate when I run because I know it can mess with my head sometimes. So I always look at it afterwards, and looking back at it afterwards, it was just far too high too soon, and there was always only going to be one result, and that was me going over my threshold too soon and hitting the wall quite early on. And then another two smaller things is that one thing that can throw me off my game is if I don't have my pillow with me. It's a small thing, I know, but my pillow is stuck with me for the last sort of 5 years, and if I have that, I sleep like an absolute king, and if I don't, I struggle. And I took that with me. I slept over in London the night before. I took that with me, but I left it on the train. And it's gone. I've tried to contact lost property, but my pillow is gone. So sort of the bed I stayed in, I used the pillow. I didn't really sleep well, and at 3 o'clock in the morning, I sort of made a makeshift pillow out of a little bit of a blanket. And then I slept well from that point onwards. But yeah, it definitely wasn't a good night's rest the night before. And then finally, the last thing that sort of wasn't in my favor is my pre-race haircut. After getting a haircut like that, I'll get it on screen for you now. I suppose there was always only going to be one sort of result. And like I say, never ever change anything new on race day or in the build up. And I went to a new barber and it didn't quite play out in my favor. But jokes aside, going into the race knowing that it was going to be warmer and knowing that I probably wasn't at 100% health just yet was risky stuff. I knew that there's a chance things could go really not well, and hindsight's a beautiful thing. But if I look back at it, I think I could have probably run a safe 2:22 feeling the way I did in those conditions. But what's the point in that? On my previous marathon to this Berlin, I'd broken 2:20, and if I never really actually went for it, then it's I've got nothing really to gain from that. So yeah, I'm glad I went for it. I'm super glad I took a shot. It hurt like hell, and it still sort of hurts like hell. But at the same time, we learn, we move forward, and I probably would have never forgiven myself if I didn't take a shot and absolutely go for it. Okay, now onto my mindset throughout the race, and sort of this is what I was thinking. So, at the start of London Marathon, people normally have big throwaway jackets and stuff like that. This was not the case this year. People were sort of hiding under shade to try and, keep as cool as possible. So that was we're going to be in for a tough day, guys. And yeah, my mindset in the beginning was to just sort of conserve as much energy as possible and, stay hydrated well throughout the race. I knew hydration was going to play a big factor. So sort of from the start, and if you watch the race video, I got into a massive group early on, and I knew that was going to be the case. There's so many good runners, so many good sub-elite runners, and everyone's getting stronger and faster. So in future years, those groups are only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. But yeah, I was probably in a pack of 20 to 30 people early on, and thinking really positively through the first 10K is pretty much exactly where I wanted to, feeling strong. Then I'm always a really sort of try and be as positive as possible, especially in these marathon sends. I think a lot of it is just remaining positive and trying to have those positive thoughts. But as soon as very early on in the race, as soon as 13Ks into the race, I started having 1 or 2 negative thoughts, and that hasn't really happened in the past. And I think that's almost your brain telling you that you're probably working a little bit too hard now, and there's sort of scary stuff on the horizon. So yeah, that was sort of the first time I thought I shouldn't be thinking these thoughts this early on, kind of Nick, what's going on type thing, but trying to sort of remain positive. Then at about 18Ks, I fell off the pack that I was in, and I probably could have hung in for a little bit longer, but I thought if I hang in for a bit longer, this is not feeling comfortable, and I could really risk hitting a massive wall. So my thinking at that point was just fall off the pack, run your own race. It's not too windy today. Yes, you get advantage of running in groups by maybe 0.5% or 1 or 2%, but in actual fact, you're much better off running your own race, rather than just trying to tuck in and go according to what the pack is if you're not super comfortable. So my mindset then was sort of like back off now and take it a little bit easier for the next sort of like 12Ks. Then you get to the 30K mark and then you can pick it up for 12Ks and really finish strong. So that was my mindset at that point. So then fast forward a few kilometers, sort of like 20Ks going over Tower Bridge. And sort of at that point, I kind of knew that things could get a little bit scary later on. I'm definitely not feeling as comfortable as I want to. I'm in sort of no man's land, and it's going to that's going to be a proper grind from here on in. Going through halfway in 69:34, so pretty much tracking for like a 1:19:08. But I could have told everyone at that point, like, there's no ways I'm going to do equal splits today. I didn't feel great from that point onwards at all. And when the 22K mark came, I basically hit my wall. So that has never happened to me in a marathon in the past. 20Ks of just pure survival. And from that point onwards, it was like I had a mindset of, okay, cool, let's once again hold back a little bit now with the intention to pick up later. And each K that went on, it got progressively tougher and tougher and tougher. I suppose when that happens to you and you see your splits just fading, I mean, I went from averaging sort of 3:19 at that point to the split slowed, from 3:19 to 3:30 to 3:40 to 3:50 to 3:55-ish to 3:58. I was too stubborn to go over 4 minutes a K. But, at that point, your legs are just like concrete. Your form is gone. You're fighting with absolutely everything. And the amount of demons I fought in that race, like demons were coming every like 5 seconds. And, you see people around you struggling, but you also, because I'd faded so much, I was getting overtaken by a lot of runners. And when you're not on top of your game, you're not feeling good, your morale is so down because you think, this is my chance. This is what I've trained for the last 10 weeks for this day. And now it's not going according to plan. Like, you just want to hit the reset button. You just want to, reset, sprinkle a few snowflakes and go again, but you can't. There's no hiding at those points in time. Like, it is what it is. You have to harden up, you have to man up, you have to sort of face the music, take it on your chin. I sort of like, I definitely don't ever want to DNF unless I obviously completely have to, and that's not even like in my vocabulary, let's say. But watching runners around me, pulling off to the side, stopping, it messes with your mind big time because you think that's an easy way out. Like, I can stop this pain right now, regroup, it's not your day, come back, go again. And it's amazing because, I'm not a quitter in any way, but the amount of times I thought about quitting in that race, honestly, was just incredible. And it's like you've prepared for those moments, but you can't stop those negative thoughts. And it was just a constant battle. Like I say, I still feel like a part of me is stuck in that last 10Ks. But you know what? I think once you go through a race like that where you completely hit the wall and it's struggle city, one thing I've noticed is that it is so motivational because you want to do what it takes to come right next time. And number 2, when you get into that position next time in the future, you think, actually, this is bad, but this isn't as bad as it was last time or as bad as I remember. And that just gives you like an extra spring in your step. So it's not the first time I've hit a wall. Hopefully the last time, but most likely not the last time. Lots of learnings to take forward from that. One thing I would also say is that at sort of the 20K mark, when I knew it wasn't going to be my day, I also made a conscious decision not to push myself, not to try and continue that speed until I absolutely break, because then things could get scary. I might lose a bit of consciousness, I might pass out, I might end up in hospital, who knows. I've got a lot more than myself to look after. And I made that decision at that point in time that I can feel it's not my day. Like, I'm definitely not going to quit in any ways. I'm going to give it absolutely all I've got, but I'm not going to push myself, to a state that it becomes dangerous, let's say. And then, come the last 2Ks, I was able to find something which was incredible. I ran with my head cam and I was a bit unsure of whether I should or whether I shouldn't. And I'm so glad I did, because at least, I managed to get some pretty cool content, and you can see sort of how it felt from my point of view. And at the same time, like, I think had I not run with that head cam, the race still wouldn't have gone my way, and it wouldn't have made too much of a difference. So I'm really glad that I ended up doing that. But the last 2Ks, so at the 40K mark, I was in position 120th or so. I managed to finish in 107th. And those suffering around me, it was just a suffer fest at that stage, going along the embankment towards Big Ben. But one thing that helped so much is just having your people there and seeing, you know, my best athletic supporters point, people screaming for you. I had a lot of family and friends along the finishing stretch, and that just like, at that point in time, it's like almost the only thing that can lift you up and sort of bring that extra little bit out in you. So yeah, I was really happy to have found something extra towards the end, sort of like restored a little bit of pride finishing like that. You know, I was so defeated at that point that to pick it up towards the end was like, okay, cool, you know, you showed that you're still a fighter and not a quitter, and to find something there was just incredible. In some pretty cool news, I've just gone live with a new coaching platform on Skool. It seems to have been really well received, and one of the coolest things about this is that it allows us to have an interactive webinar. So if you have any questions about this race that you would like answered, please put them in the comments below. But even better, I'm hosting this interactive webinar next week Wednesday at 8 p.m. UK time. There's a free trial available, so please log on and we can chat about it in person. I'll put all the details in the description below. Looking forward to catching up then. And then yeah, to touch base a little bit on this training block. So do you know what, this training block was sort of like a free bite at the cherry. I said it once I broke into 20, I was like, I've achieved what I wanted to. Everything from here on in is a bonus, and we could risk it a little bit more for the biscuit. And I pushed myself more than I ever have before. I did very high mileage. I did sort of like, you know, 190, 200k weeks, which I've never done in the past. And going into this race, I felt like I was definitely the most marathon fit. Like, I know heading in towards Berlin how I felt, and heading in towards this one, I definitely felt more marathon fit. There's so much positive to take from this training block, and one thing that you got to realize is that when a race doesn't go your way, the fitness is still there. Like, yes, okay, my legs are hurting more than ever, and a lot more than previous full sends because I hit that wall for so long. But at the same time, like, once I'm finished my binging and cheat meals and letting my hair down post-race, once I get back into the structure and swing of things, like, that fitness is going to come straight back. And I've had it in the past where I've had adverse race results, especially on your goal marathon, but then a few months later you reaching higher heights than you ever have before, and you know, in your next marathon you might reach a higher height, and that's because of the fitness banked in this block. So yeah, I think that's still, or I don't think, I know that's still in there, and I'm excited to take that forward with me. And I'm at that sort of stage of my running journey where, you know, the margins are so tight. I've been running for sort of 12 years now, that if I do the same thing each training block, I'm going to get the same result. And if I want to see significant improvements, then I've obviously got to just keep pushing the boundary, keep snapping out my comfort zone. And that's what I did this block. And I think, you know, it's what I'm going to continue to do going forward. I don't know if I necessarily need massive 200k weeks. It might be like I push myself a little bit more by incorporating a bit of swimming, you know, cycling, spinning, a little bit of cross training, whatever the case is. I'm a runner. I love running. For me to do a half an hour run is so much easier than a half an hour swim, but maybe I'll find that half an hour swim a little bit more beneficial. So yeah, I'm willing to try and risk things a little bit more, but I have no doubt that if I do the same thing as I have the last training blocks, I'll get the same results. So I do want to push the boundary a little bit more going forward, just how I did this block. And then now onto why I think this was my most successful marathon to date. So you know what, time is time, and it's really important to have time goals, and it pushes you and often brings out the best in you. And I often say that, like, if you use your running mindset, because running is so bloody hard, towards life, like, that you will be successful if you work that hard. So time goals are important, but do you know what, they're not the be all and end all. And I think, you know, you can't just measure success based on time. So if I think about the overall success of this London Marathon, I think about things like, there were so many boom shakalakas and just people supporting me on routes. If you watch the race video, it was like every few seconds. It was wild. Every year the support just ramps up a little bit more, and it's just the most surreal and incredible feeling. I bumped into like kids afterwards that had made posters with me saying boom shakalaka. You know, they were so excited to meet me, chat to me, get pictures with me. Looking back at the race as well, I've got so many messages from people, so many comments saying people got into running because of the videos they came across on my channel, or, you know, people are snapping out of their comfort zone, pushing higher heights because of what they've seen, or because of the training guides they're following and stuff like that. And that just really, like, is so much more than a sub 220 or just, you know, my times. Like, that means so much more to me. So that was just such an incredible thing to come out of London Marathon. And then yeah, if I look at sort of like the best athletics, the club I created a few years ago, there were over 100 best athletics finishes, which, you know, on a tough day is just incredible. There were so many people at Manchester as well smashing it. So it was just a successful day for the brand and the club in total. And then yeah, a lot of the athletes that I coach absolutely smashed it in some very, very tough conditions. So I couldn't be more proud as a coach. And, you know, my personal performance aside, in my coach's capacity, it was just one of the best days I've ever had. So yeah, that's why I think this was actually one of the most successful races that I've ever done. Okay, now on to what's next for me. Okay, so like I said, my body's been a lot more sore after this race than it has in previous races, so I need to recover properly. And then once I've recovered properly, I'm going to take on Operation Speed once again. So I'm going to do my annual track race. It's going to be probably a 3,000 meter track race here in a local track to me. And then I've entered quite a few like 5Ks in Battersea over the summer, some shorter distance races and some half marathons and stuff. So yeah, really try and get Operation Speed going again. I really like ramping that speed work up over the summer and then transitioning that into the marathon sort of in the autumn or more towards the end of the year. And then apart from that, like, because I tend to thrive in cooler weather and it's summer kicking in and I stand a very low chance of PBing in the summer, like I'll give it all I got and I will try. I want to have a little bit more fun now as well, like I have in the past. So, you know, I can enjoy the content side of things a little bit more. I can maybe go and target a few park runs, go around to the country, checking out a few different park runs, maybe pacing a few people to PBs, maybe pacing like a few celebrities to PBs. Who knows, but you know, just some feel good fun stuff that I really enjoy doing, apart from the performance and results side. And then yeah, onto my next sort of marathon full send. So I'm 100% going to do Valencia in December. I'm locked, loaded, fully focused for that. And then I'm still deciding on whether I'm going to do an autumn marathon or not. I do Berlin pretty much every year, and I've got such good memories there. I might do it, I might not. I'm still deciding. Let me know in the comments below what you think I should do. Should I park the marathon bus and go all in at Valencia, or should I, you know, definitely do an autumn marathon because the fitness is there, we live once, and just go for it could make me stronger in both. I don't need to decide just now. I've got a couple of weeks, but I'm excited for what the future has, and I can't wait to bounce back from this. I'm so motivated. And yeah, guys, like I said, you know what, it's the slowest of my last 7, but at the same time, like, I need to just put things into perspective for myself a little bit, because a few years ago, had you told me I'd run a 2:27, you know, on a tough day and walk away disappointed, I'd be like, there's absolutely no way. So I've been able to sort of raise that bar, and I'm under no illusion that it's still such a phenomenal result, just outside the top 100 in a marathon major. But at the same time, you know, you're allowed to be a little bit disappointed, and I'm so hungry to come back to London and make it right. And that I will. So yeah, onwards and upwards. Thanks so much for supporting the journey. Just hit 50,000 subscribers on YouTube, which is absolutely awesome. By the time this gets released, I might have been around 100,000 Strava followers. And yeah, it's just been one hell of a journey. And guys, I'm still to peak, which is awesome. I can't wait to just keep working hard, keep sharing my journey with you. And it's just such an amazing community to be a part of. So thanks for the support. Good race, bad race, we show up, we give it our all. Boom shakalaka, onwards and upwards. Let's go.